What is up, ladies and gentle nerds? It's your boy Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet, and today we are overthinking MTG, looking at a random magic card. Let's do it. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and click that random card button, and we are looking at Boros Elite. All right, interesting. All right, so Boros Elite here is cropped awkwardly in the YouTube video for some reason. Interesting, interesting. Um, Let's go ahead and adjust that. So anyway, so Boros Elite, it is a 1/1 human soldier for 1 white. So nice and simple, can't go wrong. And it says whenever Boros Elite and at least 2 other creatures attack, Boros Elite gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Oh, okay, cool. I like that. So, and then the flavor text on it is first you must fight among the rank and file. It is there I will discern your skills as a leader. And that quote is attributed to Aurelia, to Gideon Jura. Okay, interesting. So it's a so the flavor wise, you have a soldier who is clearly very talented, very strong at what she does, and but at the same time, she is just a 1/1. She is just part of the ground troops. She's just one of the rank and file, one of the grunts in the army. Um, but she's very, very good. And when she has a team around her, um, then all of a sudden there's a buff, there's a bonus. So that's really solid. I like this a lot actually. It looks like the printing that we're looking at was is in Guild Kit Boros, and it was originally printed in Gate Crash. So this is in the Return to Ravnica cycle. Yeah, interesting stuff. It's just a rock solid piece, and it fits the flavor of white very, very nicely because one of the elements that we see a lot in white is focusing on the team, the good of the whole, the benefit of the many. And so the idea that your army is designed to function together and you get bonuses when they're together makes a lot of sense. The other thing is I actually wasn't around in the Return to Ravnica cycle. I actually quit. I had originally quit Magic shortly after the first Ravnica block, so I missed a lot of this stuff. But one of the things that I have noticed about every single time we've gone back to Ravnica is they have given each of the guilds a unique keyword that's just part of the design. And so it looks here, and it's funny because some of those are really stand out, and other ones are very forgettable. And in standard we have effects like mentor and undergrowth that we know because we see them on arena. But how much do those really aren't going to make that big of a splash. Meanwhile, I want to point out that one of the original the Golgari effect from the original Ravnica block was dredge. And if you're familiar at all with eternal formats, and like I don't know much about eternal formats, but I know dredge is a problem. It is incredibly vicious in those formats. It's a mechanic that's a little too powerful for what it does. The idea is basically if you would draw a card, you can instead mill cards from the top of your library and take a card with dredge and put it into your hand. So the idea is instead of drawing, you actually mill yourself, um, and you don't draw a card, so you don't progress further into your deck, but you do get a certain card back from the graveyard. And it's usually a creature, but there are all kinds of cards with dredge. Anyway, and so you're filling your graveyard, which is exactly what you want to do, and you have control over what card goes into your hand. Yeah, and so you can build a lot of really strong, really busted, degenerate stuff with that, which is why Golgari got Undergrowth this time around, which is nowhere near as busted because it's not interacting with the card that you're returning to your hand. It's also not filling your graveyard with anything. It is just looking at the graveyard and giving you something if you have successfully filled it. That's it. Like, that's all it is. And I think that that is a much smarter design that fits the flavor of the guild while also not shattering modern. So anyway, that's good. And so it looks like the reason I bring that up is because Boros Elite here, which is clearly part of the Boros Legion, despite not being hybrid, she's just 1 white. And I say she because the soldier that's depicted appears to have very strong feminine features. So that's an assumption. But that's what I'm seeing here. And also, there's no anyway. So this particular soldier, um, she has the keyword ability Battalion. Now I'm taking that to mean that that is the Boros mechanic from the Return to Ravnica block. And whenever Boros Elite and at least two other creatures attack, it gets +2/+2 till end of turn. I'm guessing that there was a whole cycle of Battalion creatures that got some kind of bonus as long as there was a certain number of them attacking. That's one of those keywords that you see a lot where the keyword itself on the card doesn't really do anything. Like it doesn't add anything to the flavor or anything to the function of the card. You could take the word battalion off of that and the card would function exactly the same. Exactly the same. Because the text is whenever Boros Elite and at least two other creatures attack, Boros Elite gets +2/+2 talent return. Now, if it said Battalion 2, Boros Elite gets +2/+2 talent return. Now that is a different story because you're taking the meaning of the mechanic and embedding it in the keyword. And we see that a lot with are evergreen keywords. So flying, vigilance, death touch, those have rules text associated with them that are crammed together. And we just see them so much that they've streamlined it because they don't need to put all of that text on there. You're kind of expected to know what those do. And if you don't, you can learn really easily. And there are a lot of resources that can help you with that. But there's an expectation that when somebody sits down to play a game, they understand what flying is and how that works. They understand what first strike is and how that works. But battalion is a keyword that is isolated to just this block. And you see that a lot actually. There are a number of keywords that are isolated. Soul shift was isolated in Kamigawa. That's never come up since then. Um, there's battalion here. You have dredge from back in the day, although that has gotten dusted off a little bit. I understand. Um, but there are all these other mechanics that you don't see come up again. And actually, I wouldn't be surprised if in Throne of Eldraine they introduced us to food as a type of artifact that you can create. I would be shocked if we have any more cards that interact with food down the line because that was a standalone block. That's not to say it's never going to happen, but I think it's going to be if we see anything where food becomes a recurring theme or if they bring it back for any reason, I'm expecting it maybe in a commander product because you can do a lot of fun kind of off the beaten path stuff with that you can't do otherwise. But battalion, they put a keyword on it because there is a consistent theme. And they wanted to hang a lantern on it, which is the expression that I've heard um, a lot of people who are mentoring creative writers actually point that out. If you're doing something obvious, just point out that you know it's obvious. If you're engaging in a cliche, just let the reader know, yeah, I know, but still go for it if it's what you want to do. And the moment you do that, it gives you credibility in a way that it wouldn't otherwise. Um, well, and so what they're doing here is they're saying, yeah, guys, we know that there's a whole bunch of Boros creatures out here that have that Boros watermark that have the ability of whenever this creature and at least two others attack. Yeah, we know that was intentional. We built them that way. We want that to be a theme and we want it to stand out when you are looking at the Boros cards holistically from this block. Therefore, we are going to call that ability Battalion, which also fits because, okay, we have the idea of a unit of soldiers. If these fighters are together, they will be stronger because they can help each other. I like that. That actually feels really nice. And that's something that we see sometimes in white. There are a handful of other white cards that give benefits if you have multiple attacking. That's not uncommon, and I really appreciate it. And it feels like that fits, and that's the kind of thing that white should be doing. Um, I think, if you're going to be building the white weenie strategy, being rewarded for having a lot of them seems to make a lot of sense because that's what you're planning on doing. That's the game plan. That's your goal. And so why not have some perks once you get there? That's really cool. And also, I really dig the flavor text. The fact that it's a conversation between Aurelia and Gideon is pretty cool because we know Aurelia is the guild leader of Boros. She's a big badass angel who, is just she's Boros. She just that is who she is. And so the idea that even to Gideon, freaking planeswalker who is just unquestionably one of the strongest soldiers in the whole frickin' multiverse, the fact that she would look at him and say, "You know what? Prove it." Like, you know what? You're gonna have to pay your dues like everyone else who has ever joined this guild, anyone who has ever joined this army, has had to start on the front lines. If you can make it there, great, but you don't get any special treatment. And I love the idea that, and that also really ties into the flavor that the Boros Elite is a 1-1 for one. You know, the idea that the Boros Elite starts as a lowly one drop that with just basic on curve stats, but the moment that Boros Elite has a unit, a battalion to command, all of a sudden they become a 3-3. They become more imposing. They become stronger. I love that. I think that actually that fits really nicely, and it's a solid card. It's clean. It's fair. It does good work. Like it fits on curve. Like without spending any mana investment, you get a well with only the one mana investment, you get a one drop on your first turn. And by the third turn, with no additional mana investment, aside from building out your army, which you were going to do anyway, this becomes a 3-3 in combat. So when it's attacking, it becomes a 3-3. That's pretty great, actually. So cards that grow naturally as the game progresses, if you know, that's pretty great. Now, you have to be executing on your game plan in order for that to work. If you're behind, this card's not going to help you get caught up. So that's a problem. Like you need to have some momentum in order to really take advantage of this. But it's a way of sealing the deal if you are ramping up and you are hitting your opponent faster than they can deal with it. And the other cool thing about that actually is if you're running a Boros deck where you have white and red, you have access to haste. And so as a result, you're far more likely to actually be getting that +2/+2 on turn three, if not by turn two. You know, because the idea of something generating two 1/1 hasty goblins, that's not that hard to pull off at all. You know, so actually just if you have Boros Elite down and are able to put two, you know, hasty 1/1s on the board, all of a sudden you're swinging for 5 damage on turn two. That's nothing to sneeze at. I mean, that's legit. Now that's a best case scenario, but still, like that's really strong. And you know, and that's not crazy. Like it's not easy. You're not going to be doing that all the time, but that's a pretty sweet upside for a little uncommon 1/1. Yeah, this is cool. I like it. Yeah, if it's working well, if you can get your game plan online, she can help you seal the deal and put a ton of pressure on your opponent pretty early. So that's pretty great. Now she is fully aggressive, and when she's blocking, she's a 1/1. Period. End of discussion. She's always going to be a 1/1 on the block. So that kind of sucks. But at the same time, she only costs one. And at uncommon, it's fair. It's just downright fair. So yeah, so this has been Boros Elite. It's pretty cool. I love it when form and flavor come together to create a solid whole. That's it makes me happy, and I feel like the design team did a good job on this one. Yeah, the artwork, the flavor text, the functionality, it all jives, it all clicks together. Also, human soldier is the type, which is pretty great because that actually gives you a lot of synergies. There are a number of synergies with humans, a number of synergies with soldiers. You can take your pick. It would fit into any of those decks. So I don't know. It's a rock solid little uncommon. I like it. Thanks so much for hanging out, guys. This has been a pleasure, as always. My name is Graham, also known as Hamhocks42 on the internet. And yeah, I stream over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Hamhocks42. I look forward to seeing you over there. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, whenever it may be. And yeah, I'll catch you next time.